Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And with Vermeil Gold's 4th episode premiering, things have taken an interesting turn within the story. And I want to have a look here in this video at the battle that Alto has with Chris at the beginning of the episode, the development in Alto and Vermeil's relationship, and what novice authors can learn from this episode analysis. Alright, so in order to understand the beginning of this episode, we kind of have to go back a little ways right here. This is a very typical shonen battle setup right here, with Alto facing off Chris because of things that have happened previously, which began with Alto beating Rex with Vermeil's help. And Rex is this bully who's been throwing it around that he has a dragon familiar and he is not to be messed with. He also has a bit of a chip on his shoulder because his dragon doesn't have any wings, which makes it basically a dinosaur. By that logic, does that mean that pterodactyls are dragons? In any case, just as what usually happens in a shonen story, if you beat up the bully, they are suddenly obligated to become your friend. If only all high school brawls and disagreements were this easy to resolve. However, with Rex losing and bringing shame to the Dragon Riders Club, their president Chris violently puts Rex in his place, which just happens to be in the infirmary. Well, Alto, being this show's beta boy shonen protagonist, he does what every good teen anime protagonist has done since Goku and Naruto, and that is challenging the person who just beat up his newest friend to a battle. Now, while this is a predictable shonen setup, I do commend the series for previously establishing that duels are a way of resolving any conflict with finality. This fight is also meant as a way to gauge Alto's tremendous mana reserve and potential thanks to Vermeil. However, it also illustrates that he is still a novice when it comes to battle. That will be very important later on in the story, believe you me. And I have to give kudos to the animators. Again, this show's lacking budget is made clear in this opening scene, but you can tell that the staff went all out with everything that they have and succeeded in making the battle engaging and intense. I'm curious, though, why they didn't go with the more badass ending where Alto is in the process of impaling Chris by the end of the duel. This show has definitely, though, dialed back some of the steamier scenes, so I guess it makes sense. But the bouts of action within the manga balance out the slower-paced romance and succubus biz pretty nicely, I might add. And by removing then this contrast, you kind of lose the impact that the opposing scenes have on each other to really elevate the darker elements within the story. Now, Alto's victory against Chris again highlights the fact that I brought up in the last video that I did on Vermeil Gold, that within this story, Alto resorts to trickery in order to win all of his battles. Using Vermeil and their combined magic to create a kind of smoke screen, and then using Vermeil to hurl him all the way up to Chris was the only way that Alto could win. While he does have a comparable level of magic to this member of the student council, he is still a novice fighter who was on the back foot the entire time and thereby had to resort to a trick in order to win. Now, I always detail in my more deeper fight analyses videos that it is important to know both why a battle is happening and why it matters. We already know now why this whole fight between Chris and Alto began, but why it matters is an interesting one, because while this fight does give us insights into Alto's lack of experience, that is not the main focus as this battle is with typical battle shonen stories, where it's all about the power leveling and advancing. And nor does this battle progress any of the core relationships like what you would typically see in a shonen battle story. Instead, this duel kicks off a cascade of dominoes tumbling in various directions. And this does get a little bit spoilery right here, but we can already see some of these clues unfolding in this episode. First, Alto is now on the student council's radar, which brings him closer to his goal of becoming a great wizard, but will also be a source of conflict in the near future. Secondly, getting revenge for Rex will take a very curious turn, especially as we see at the end of this episode, because it doesn't go the typical shonen route, as we will see in episode 5. Thirdly, this unexpected victory brings Alto and Vermeil into the crosshairs of the hidden baddies on campus. Essentially, this battle is critical to kicking off the larger plot developments that will happen in subsequent episodes. Now, shifting gears, this episode was meant to be the railroad switch in Alto and Vermeil's relationship, and this was a moment that worked, I believe, a whole lot better in the manga than it did here in the anime. Let me explain. The manga from the beginning made Vermeil a much harder to pin down character. The blend of flirtiness, demonic danger, and genuine affection made her revelation that she loves Alto far more believable because from the get-go, we actually see an established connection between Vermeil and Alto. A relationship born of fate and necessity that has grown with smaller, cuter moments between them from chapter to chapter. On the other hand, though, the anime wanted to make sure to establish that Vermeil is a demon, and that as such, she is incredibly dangerous and treacherous. Demons are evil, which should in theory make her relationship with Alto all the sweeter because their blossoming romance sets her on a course to change and become a better person over time. But this is where the anime's relentless pacing is coming to bite it somewhat in the butt, because we don't get all of the smaller, sweeter moments leading up to this moment of confession. When Alto and Vermeil talk about kissing only the people you love, Vermeil teases Alto to fully explore her, and then Vermeil adds to the report that Alto has to write that she also loves Alto, and not just sweets. And that right there is the switch point. That's where we go from a will they, won't they, to a they definitely will in the future. But I'm not going to give away spoilers for what will come up in episode 6. Because at the pacing that this is going, I already kind of have an idea where episode 6 is going to land us, and where their relationship is going to jump to, which is a level far beyond what most shonen protagonists will ever reach. But again, in the manga, this scene right here makes sense because we've already had plenty of moments that cement a growing relationship, while here in the anime, it just kind of jumps out at you. Why should an evil demon honestly fall for a human beta boy? I mean, really, let's ask ourselves, and not just because of the powers of anime. This show will go for the tired trope of proving how much you feel for someone by doing something dramatic or fighting a cool battle. It works for most shonen series, but it is not a fulfilling way to communicate your feelings. And honestly, within the manga, these feelings of affection and even romance are actually very well communicated even before this moment here in episode 4. We'll have to see how the anime continues to handle Alto and Vermeil's romance going forward, but I can already see where the pacing has not allowed the showrunners to properly adapt their relationship as we see it in the manga. Any good romance takes time to establish and time to build up. Just jumping to the good steamy bits might get you excited, but it's more akin to gorging yourself on cotton candy. It's delicious and sweet, but it's ultimately unfulfilling and will make you sick if you eat too much. Now, what can we learn from this episode, and to what extent, as well, the episode that preceded it? Well, a few things immediately jump out to me. Number 1, battles are important, and as a result, you need to properly set them up and properly execute their payoff. I dive into much greater detail about this in my other battle analysis videos, and I'll link a few of them for you to check out in the description. And you don't have to go the obvious tropish route either that most shonen stories go, but understanding why this fight has to happen, why you have it on your hands, and what it will mean in the long run are vital to making them stick out. Otherwise, it's all just action fluff and honestly easily forgettable. Next big takeaway is this. It is a big debate amongst authors about when you introduce the main plot within your story. Within Vermeil and Gold, we are actually getting to the point where the big plot is about to be revealed, and we're already 4 episodes in. In fact, we probably won't see the big answer until episode 6, which is halfway through the season. Now, some authors say you need to establish the main plot as soon as possible to complement how you've established the atmosphere and tone at the beginning of your story. This usually means that you come out swinging with everything in the very first chapter or two. However, other authors suggest that you first establish characters and tone long before diving into the main plot. This means that you write a fantastic opening hook and that you then take your time developing the characters and the setting before throwing them into the meat of the main plot. Vermeil and Gold definitely goes the latter route. Within the translated chapters of the manga as they currently stand, you only begin to get an idea of what the main plot really is about halfway through, which is kind of hinted at in chapter 4, but is really only followed up on and introduced by chapter 9. Where you, however, fall on this debate about when you should dive into your main plot is largely left up to you and your story. How fast do you need to get to the heart of your story? Well, really, that kind of depends on what you intend to do. Finally, let's have a gander at writing romance. You need to take your time to build up a proper romance in order for it to work. You need to show us the mile markers where characters reveal stuff about themselves, make connections, share cute moments, have good conversations, work together as a team, and ultimately fall for each other. In the Vermeil and Gold manga, we get 2 chapters establishing that Vermeil has this greedy need to feast on Alto's mana, but then we get them training for magical battles, we get to see them working together as a competent team, they're going to classes together, sharing cute meals together, Alto wanting to know more about Vermeil, which is something that the anime definitely cut short here to get to the cooler stuff, and Vermeil realizing that Alto isn't a complete beta boy, but has real potential to be Alto the Alpha. And only after we've done all of that do we finally get to the kissing conversation in the manga. And all of these are distinct mile markers, and pacing is essential to plotting out a good relationship in your story. So those are my lessons that I get out of episode 4 of Vermeil and Gold, and I'm very interested in seeing how the anime handles the rest of the story from here. The adaptation is good. I've honestly really been enjoying myself watching this. It nails so many of the scenes really, really well, especially here in episode 4, and the switch points for Alto and Vermeil really landed well for me, despite them lacking the proper setup, but that's probably because I've read the manga. And knowing the contrast between manga and anime, it's clear to me which one was executed better. So if you've been keeping up with the anime, I'd like to know your thoughts, especially if you haven't read the manga. And what do you think of this episode and its progression of the core romance? As always, we're looking to have a dialogue with you, and we'd like to see how we can improve as authors and as creators here, and we want to help you out the same as well. And so if you're looking to improve your craft as an author, then please check out our other videos here on YouTube, especially go check out our podcast episodes found on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, the works. We have writing exercises for you over at our Pinterest page, and we would love for you to join our writing community. Links for all of that and more are down in the description. Thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, be mindful of releasing busty demons into the world, and obviously avoid shady teachers. And juice.
愛してる